Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Wish you a happy and healthy start to this May 2nd, Sunday over here from Helsinki, Finland. Got my morning walk in, so I'm feeling all right. Didn't get enough sleep last night, but that's okay because very little things going on in the crypto overnight market. Just more or less continuation from Mr. Buterolb and the altcoin party. And Bitcoin, well, we'll talk about that in the short and medium term timeframes today. Yesterday was more or less the long-term analysis day, however, so I would point your direction if you want the more in-depth long-term analysis that we did yesterday for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and most importantly Bitcoin. Anyways, with that said, let's get into the Krown chain application over here, which can be found at app.krownchain.net. What do we see? We see Bitcoin dominance heading down yet again, 48.18%. And someone brought up a really good point in the Discord yesterday that Bitcoin dominance is a little bit of a mirage in some sense, because in this market, anytime that an altcoin is added, essentially, the dominance, technically speaking, would go down. Mostly because, I mean, this is obviously being measured off of market cap as well. And market cap is already a pretty damn crude sort of calculation in the sense that it's just the last it's the last price multiplied by the supply, which is obviously not very much indicative of what's like actually liquid within that asset. So I do want to point that out. However, at the same time, you know, you can just look at altcoin Bitcoin pairings, and for the most part, in the majority of them, we do see them rallying against Bitcoin for the last few weeks, especially. So with that in mind, I do think, you know, it's important to talk about the nuances of these sorts of things. And of course, in this market with a lot of altcoins coming in, that's going to greatly help that. But at the same time, I mean, we actually do see healthy, you know, altcoin Bitcoin pairings for the most part, mostly led by Ethereum, it looks like here. Anyways, on top of that, fear and greed index all the way at a 66. So we are back in the greedy zone. Not anything too crazy though right now, as Bitcoin more or less just holds the higher term time frame range. And then on top of that, we do see that open interest come down a little bit from yesterday to today. We nearly hit about 10 billion in open interest, mostly marking a 1 billion increase from this past week, essentially off the $48,000 lows to where we're at right now at about $58,000, or a little bit under right now, and backing off that. So I still look at this as more or less a range, and realistically I will not get very bearish on Bitcoin, meaning like a macro breakdown or even like a long-term reversal in that sense, until we see a very specific interplay between the open interest and price action. I want to see a high term time frame range broken. In this case, that would be below Bitcoin's current low at about $48,000 plus open interest shooting up. Until that happens, I don't really see any like major long-term macro change in behavior. Now, of course, that does not mean that we can't see a daily change in behavior, which I believe that we have. I mean, obviously Bitcoin did put in a lower low on that last drive down to about $48,000. So with that in mind, how does that play into the long term? Well, we went over that pretty in detail yesterday, but we'll kind of brush up on again today. Anyways, top 10 best coins, top 10 worst coins. Looks like a lot of exchange tokens over here, at least a couple. Dogecoin once again in the winners list. What the fuck, man? Dogecoin just going absolutely insane. And Solana, Aave, Compound, Bitmax, Ethereum Classic. That thing's still alive. That's great. Phantom, Nanos. Fuck yeah. And in OKB on the other side, we got Avalanche, Digibyte coughing up their gains from yesterday. Polygon, Ren, Reserve Rights, Pancake. It's like all the same ones from the top 10 best coins all there, except for Dogecoin. What the fuck is this? That is so crazy. It is just consistently a winner. Love it or hate it, that is what the information does indeed show. Anyways, into the market data tab we go, and what do we see right here? Is this perhaps a lower high in the making right now? Well, we're going to be talking about that, of course, on Bitcoin. But, you know, is that anything very concerning as far as the long term goes we identified yesterday? Probably not, no. However, we do have massive ranges here, and a $10,000 move to the downside is certainly not out of the question, but most importantly, I would be looking at that as a long-term opportunity, at least on the first pass. Anyways, we also see a change in behavior on open interest here as well. As you can see, we actually did take out that last low as well. Not as, you know, important, but does need to be identified, because when we are putting together the pieces of the macro case, you know, you want everything kind of in there, of course. Anyways, as far as the funding rates go, again, nothing too crazy over here. I don't look at any of this as consequential. FTX are going to be removed soon enough, sirs, and we can see that most exchanges are very, you know, very much muted as far as that goes. So I don't look at that as an issue right now. I don't look at that as like a major, you know, point of contention. Nope, nothing really going on over there. It's mostly all going on in price action right now. But is there anything else that I want to get onto before we get into it? No, I think that's it for right now. Yeah, pretty easy day. Let's start off with Ethereum. So Ethereum once again making new all-time highs, closing above the topside trolling band, as we did say was likely yesterday, and that is going to keep the rally alive. And if it keeps a rally alive, well, then that means that I'm looking for further all-time highs, very likely over these next 48 hours of price action, as long as Ethereum is closing above the topside Toronto band right here, which is currently situated at about 2950-ish region, basically the high thus far of this rally. I am looking for this to essentially continue, meaning that the upside targets still remain active. This three spot target right here, right around $3,000, is not a big one. That's just a psychological number. I'm not looking for that one to be like a major pivot point. The last major pivot point that we saw was a 2-spot 618, sold down from about 28 all the way down to just below 27, which was a decent move there, just playing between the 618 and the 414 classic shit, or you might even say the 272 in this case, depending upon whether you use wicks or bodies. But that's neither here nor there. We're looking up right now, and realistically, the next major areas that I have in mind here is going to be the 414 and the 618 over on the 3250-ish region to 3350-ish region, and that's a big one for myself. Above there, we can talk about further targets, of course, but I want to take it one leg at a time, at the same time, take this a little bit more, what's the word, patiently. Yeah, patiently. I'm working on my patience as of recent times. Anyways, what do we see over here? We do see that SMI is continuing to increase momentum. Yes, it is getting way up there, and yes, it is getting a little bit frothy in some cases, just by getting above the critical zone over here. But ultimately, as long as the momentum is increasing on the histogram, I do look at that as still, again, trend in motion, and you expect to see more egregious and more critical reads, especially in scenarios when you are making new all-time highs, like in price discovery format as well. So all of this is, to be expected and more or less good, and does speak to the long-term continuation of this asset right now. Do I think that we're going to top out at like 3,300 for forever? No, I think it's very likely to be like a medium-term pullback, and then very likely march its way on upwards and onwards over the next, probably over the next few months here. Well, maybe a couple months. Anyways, looking at DMI ADX, obviously the DMI Plus very much dominant. ADX continues to strengthen, and MACD histogram continues to increase the momentum as well. So all of this is good for further continuation into these next couple days of price action. And again, if we do close above the topside Toronto band once again, my next sort of general daily target is going to be about 3250, I believe it was. Anyways, we can go over to the 2-day and 3-day, of which the 2-day did not close last night, or actually, let me double check on this one. Yeah, it did not close last night. It is going to be closing tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time alongside the weekly, and if it does close above the topside Toronto band, that is going to further enhance the Bula-ishness coming into the early portion of this next week. We do see the same things going on over here on the momentum oscillators. We do see that DMI Plus is actually a lot more strong. In fact, there's a lot to be said about the DMI on this particular chart. We are making a new high above the prior high in middle of April. That was on this consolidation drive at around $2,500, and that is continuing to increase in its curvature as well, while maintaining a positive slope. And the ADX obviously very much not dominant, but the ADX is very much strengthening as well, almost nearly vertical in that case. And on top of that, we do see that momentum oscillators like the SMI is actually rather okay over here, as we do see the histogram is obviously increasing momentum, but we're not seeing anything too egregious just yet. And in its most, what's called aggressive rallies, let's actually go to Finex over here. We actually have seen this get much higher, in fact, all the way up to about a 78. In fact, that was the highs. I believe this is, what do you fucking know? 2017. It's fucking 2017. But anywhere within this region right here, between about, let's call it 65 to, well, just 65 plus, we'll call it. That's when it does become a little bit more historically relevant for looking for potential major highs. And in this case right here, are we anywhere near that? I mean, we're definitely crawling our way up there, yes, but that would imply, first and foremost, more upside. On top of that, we did see the 3-day close, I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday night. No, actually, no, it was not. It was the night before, so fair enough. But again, continuing with the trend above the topside Toronto band, obviously daily, 2-day, 3-day, all kind of playing in with each other, but that is a good thing, and that does make me bullish, very likely for new all-time highs this coming week. To what is it, like 32 to 3,300ish basically, and very likely continuation over time. But I would like to see a bit of a consolidation, trade sideways for a bit, and then resolve itself later on. Take this market nice and slow right here. It's making it very painless right now. Anyways, DMI ADX, very, very good signal right here. DMI Plus obviously basing off of the threshold, getting that positive slope alongside the ADX. Yep, very, very good. And on top of that, we do see the same things with SMI over here in MACD over here. And you're probably saying, Krown, what the fuck, man? You're looking at daily, 2-day, and 3-day, and you're expecting something different, and they're not. And it's like, well, no, I want to double check that they are the same, because a lot of the time we do not see them actually on the same side, and that's usually a good sign of perhaps a little bit of indecision, which typically equates to a bit of sideways action, and wait for the next like mega, major signal. Anyways, 5 days, that one closing tonight? No, it's not. Let's actually just look at the weekly, because that one is closing tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time alongside the 2-day as well. And this is incredibly powerful right here, as we're going to get our first closure closure above the topside Toronto band, as long as it closes above 27.45 about on Finex, that is, since the last sort of continuation run starting in December, nope, before that actually, in about November 2020. So that was this whole run right here. Pretty fucking impressive, as that condition was essentially met the whole way through, except for one closure right here. But technically speaking, you do want to see an open and closure in order to like fully confirm a rejection of the topside Toronto band, thus creating a bit of a downside move like you see over here. But in this case, you know, I do typically myself err on the side of aggressiveness, and I'm happy to kind of jump in, jump back out on these sorts of reads. Anyways, in this case right here, for example, that was a 300% run. Not bad, to be fair, not bad at all. And we have several in the past as well, of which these ones were pretty fucking impressive, going all the way back to February 2017. I'm sure a lot of people here remember that. Hey, that's weird. Another 350% move right there too. Very interesting. What about this one over here, starting again on that move? Hey, that's very bizarre. Another 510%. I'm curious what this one over here on the last sort of push of 2017 did. Take it from this region right here, and another 170% move. I'm curious actually if we do see the prior breakout of this high is more like more like 250. Anyways, we do kind of see a bit of a range on those moves, and seeing as this one is kind of just starting right now, well, I would be putting the I would be putting the favor of some some legitimate upside right here. And let's just play around with numbers. Of course, you can probably do some mental maths and figure this one out yourself, but let's just on the lower end see what those sort of past signals have produced. Well, that was about what, like basically like a little bit more than a 2x, just under like 200%. So let's just say it's like 150%. Well, that puts Ethereum at, oh god damn it, 6,900. Beautiful number right there though, baby. Beautiful fucking number. Anyways, what if we were to take it out about 350%, as that was actually rather consistent as well? Well, there's your $12,000 number. So the people who are talking about $10,000 Ethereum on this run, is it possible? I suppose yes. It's not. It's historically speaking, it's not out of the question. It would be historically reasonable. Although going off historically generated moves is leaves a little bit to be desired at the same time as well. But still, overall good. And what if we were to on the upper end take, I don't know, I think it was like 500% or something. Well, there's your fucking $20,000 crazy numbers. Anyways, I don't think that that's going to happen, at least on this run. Is it possible later on? I think so. I've actually been listening to a lot of Ethereum heads recently, just because I'm trying to actually like educate myself on this market, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm a trader first, so I don't really it's not my realm to be looking at different fundamental coins and whatnot. I think they're interesting, of course, but hearing a lot of people speak about Ethereum, there actually is a very interesting fundamental bullish case, as apparently there's going to be a I don't know if the right terminology is supply reduction, but it is going to have deflationary characteristics upon it. So I'm not the person to go to for something like that. I was actually hearing Kobe, Crypto Cobain, talk about this alongside his pal, Mr. Ledger, who seem like they're really, really good guys in this space. And they've actually done like a lot of really altruistic, cool things, which I think is fucking awesome, man. So, speaking for the crypto community, showing their face to the crypto community seems to be, a really good thing. And anyways, they were talking about that. So they're probably good guy, good reference to go to for something like that, as are, plenty of other people on the YouTubes here. But as far as I'm concerned, yep, as far as charts go, good. And on top of that, we do see that the monthly is pretty much having one of the best closures it's ever had in its whole fucking life. And while I do think that Ethereum could very easily come back down to 2,500 after the next sort of, move to the upside, I would be looking at that as a major opportunity first and foremost. Similar to what we spoke about on Bitcoin yesterday. Long term, I'm still looking for this to continue, and monthly, as far as all momentum oscillators go, is at least got another drive here. I don't know. It is getting a bit frothy on top of that, but until we start to lose momentum, on a couple of successive drives, I really won't be willing to call like a macro high, although, we could very easily have some downside, but my main disposition would be, first and foremost, looking at that as an opportunity long term. You can also look at the bi-monthly here too, as we did close one last, a couple nights ago actually, and that topside Toronto band is coming in the low 2000s, but anywhere around, low 2500 would be good enough anyways. And these obviously are reactive. So if Ethereum were to close, let's say like $5,000 this month, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if it were, well, then we can actually forecast what the topside Toronto band would be anyways. I'm just curious, like let's say it was 3,500, where would that bring it up? Hey, show it to me. Where? Oh, whoops. We got to put this on right here. There we go. That actually bring it up all the way to 2,400 right there. That's rather interesting now, isn't it? Something to think about. Something to think about indeed, as that would essentially fulfill the monthly condition and, well, and also the bi-monthly condition by extension. Not bad. Not bad at all. Anyways, we're getting a little bit more into crystal ball shit right now, which I don't want to do. What I want to do is I want to look at Ethereum over here. Here we go. All right, 4 hour on the short-term time frames for Mr. Buterol. What do we see? We do see 4 hour RSI telling the story right now. I do look at this as more or less good, more or less indicative of continuation over time. Well, relative to a 4 hour, that is. But in this case right here, you know, we have a clean break of the prior highs, and we could just kind of walk it along the 21 here, as that is essentially getting your higher low structure for right now. Now, if you want to go by the book, I'd be looking at the prior breakout of 2780-ish region as sort of the major bias buster for looking for some significant downside. Again, not necessarily looking for that. I do think that Ethereum moves up first before playing out some downside, and we do see that this move is essentially being transpired on declining HVP over here, which does suggest that, well, probably just continue to move in that direction till we hit a bit of a critical mass. Anyways, 4 hour Jewel, not in any sort of a selling posture, although it is getting a little bit up there. And 4 hour TSI, same thing, you know. And actually, now that I notice it, 4 hour TSI does have this trend line coming in here. But again, you know, it would imply that we do have, you know, another couple dildos here of upside before we actually test that, to be fair, which would imply obviously more upside as well. Anyways, if we go through the 12 hour and daily, I'm curious if that says anything different. No, not necessarily. 12 hours, a bit of a backfill in last 12 hour open. We're looking for this one to continue to the upside. Extremely low HVP right here. So I do look at this as essentially a break of structure to the upside on extremely low HVP. The breakout is real. I'm looking for that to now, of course, tick up alongside continuation in that same direction. That's what momentum oscillators give the bias for, alongside this giving the sort of timing bias for. And in this case right here, that would be also, being that it is a 12 hour, be a rather severe result, you know, implied. Anyways, looking at the daily here too, I mean, we've kind of already gone over this, but you know, same things from this chart, looking pretty damn good. Going over to the 2-day, same thing as well. Going over to the 3-day, even that hidden bullish divergence getting ticked off at that, you know, off that last low as well, giving us the bullish bias over there. And weekly still looking strong too, which I should point out that we actually do have the weekly TSI once again hitting this trend line that's been holding up all the lows, going all the way back to January 2020. So that was all the way back on over here, getting this low, also connected with this low, that's coronavirus dump lows, connected with this low right here at 217, connected with this low right here out of this base at 395, connected with actually this low most recently, presumably on this continuation drive. On top of that, we do see that weekly RSI is getting back above the exponential, obviously in the bullish control zone. Very, very constructive read over a long period of time. Yes, at some point, we very likely do put in some divergence, but at least for right now, while there is no local high in place, which is extremely unlikely to happen this week or probably even next week, then that is unplayable and unplayable. And then realistically, I want to see like 3 drives of bearish divergence before I really start looking for like major highs in this case. For right now, it's time to get out of the way of this fucking moving steaming train. And it's like that gif, you know, that gif I used to see on like on mist.com. No, it's not Mist, it's like bb.com. Mist, yeah, there we go. And it's like this train, and it's ramming it. It's like a cartoon, by the way, and the train is ramming into this fucking like massive mountain. It's just a solid block of fucking mountain there, and all of a sudden the train just breaks on through, and the mountain just starts bleeding on this side, and I can just let your imagination fill in the rest. Great shit, man. Great shit indeed. Anyways, we've been talking long enough about Ethereum. Let's go talk about Bitcoin now. Okay, so Bitcoin, let's bring it back on over here. Let me tear off of this for a second because we don't necessarily need this right now. And by the way, you can get that function for the Troll Underbound forecast tool for free by Caretaker. It's even open source too. So if you're programmatically minded, you can probably make it work in whatever way that you want, whichever way that you see fit. Anyways, okay, so last week, or I guess it was a week and a half ago, obviously we did have that nice downside move. We got that one pretty damn good. Then I feel like it was last week, and maybe it was like a week and a half ago, something like that. We did say that, hey, on this move, a lot of things happened. Obviously, Bitcoin did break structure. And now, of course, Bitcoin can reclaim structure as well. I mean, that can certainly happen. But for right now, I go with the flow in that case. And we did create a lower low for the first time since really coronavirus dump times over here. Now, you can make the argument in August 2020 that happened as well. And I'd say that is technically true. Yes, but it wasn't really any like major threat of a move there. Anyways. It's not just on the daily, it's on the 2-day and 3-day. And I'm curious, what about the 5-day? Did it actually put in a downtrend on the 5-day? No, it got the same low on a 5-day. Actually, it did get the same low on a 5-day. By the way, 5-day 20 simple coming in around 53.5, by the way. Anyways, okay, so let's go back on over here. And so that's the first time that we've seen all of these, somewhat higher term timeframes, daily, 2-day, and 3-day, have downtrends simultaneously since basically this run began, I'd say. So it is a change of behavior. And we did say that, hey, at that point, do you have to be on lower high watch because it is time to be defensive as a trader. And in this case, well, where am I going to be looking for my lower highs? Well, we basically just put a what's called a bearish Fibonacci retracement on this one. And I said between the 0.5 and the 618 is kind of like your traditional bull trappy area. And in this case right here, we actually did top out thus far at the 618, put in a bit of a doji dildo right there. And, is it looking toppy? To me, yes, it is looking toppy to me. So could we be putting in, could this be the lower high that I've been waiting for? Yes, I do believe so. And how would I confirm that this is a lower high? Well, as of right now, if it were to happen today, there are a couple ways to do this. The most obvious would be closing the daily dildo below the 20 simple, which is, by the way, exactly in line with the 0.5 0.5 right here, just below 56,000 bucks. If that were to happen, I would generally be looking for this week on Bitcoin specifically to work its way back down to the to around last month's lows. Now, I did say yesterday, based off of what the monthly did for both the monthly and bi-monthly closure on on April leading into May, I'm no longer looking at this as having like significant threat of major continuation unless like something severely goes wrong. I do not think that Bitcoin is like reversing on the macro here, and I've been saying that for a long time. Even when I did, even when I was saying this could be a long-term change of behavior, but not a macro change of behavior, it is not a macro change of behavior. I do not think that Bitcoin has topped out for good. I do not think that Bitcoin is going to play out one of those massive downside markets from right here. I think that Bitcoin's going to trade at best sideways for a bit and then give another try to the upside over time. But sideways within a $15,000 range, or actually almost $20,000 range, between about 65,000 bucks and 45,000 bucks, is a $20,000 fucking range. It's massive. So a lot of damage can be done in there. Anyways, that would be the first and most obvious way to do it. Could we do this on a lower term time frames? Yes, we could do it on a lower term time frame. Would I feel as comfortable on a lower term time frame? Obviously fucking not, because it's a lower term time frame. But what would I be using on a lower term time frame? Could use a 4-hour dildo just below 56,000 bucks. I'd say wherever the 20 simple is in this case, which is actually admittedly going to be right around 56,000 bucks anyways. So with that in mind, I would be looking at this as a pivot, specifically for the daily. Technically speaking, would I take action on a 4-hour? In this case, I probably would. I do think that it would be okay to be a bit aggressive, but just like I did not play this move over here, I probably won't play this move over here. I'm really looking for the next long-term long opportunity, because that's what I really want to switch my style into, and so I'm like making a concerted effort to, I'll still play the lower term timeframes in like a fun, like I call it like a game account essentially, because it's like a fucking video game. But realistically, I want to start to hone my more long-term trading skills here, as it's not something that I really even never really got into, as well. I mean, how many times do you get one of these sort of markets that just goes straight fucking moon mode, with no remorse? It seems to me that the easier way to do things would just be to play things more long term. But hey, to each their own, and fair enough. And again, I know plenty of people who are making shit tons of money in the short term time frames. Hey, more power to you, man. More fucking power to you. This is not me trying to be your dad. I'm just telling you what I'm doing myself. I think it's important to be honest on the internet, because a lot of the time people will talk their book but not talk like why they're talking their book, and it's like, well, I think you should probably know. Anyways, okay, cool. So with that in mind, let's throw these back on, see what our momentum oscillator is looking like right now. On our secondary charts, 4-hour momentum obviously is waning. We do see that 4-hour histogram is having a bit of divergence right here on the SMI, and obviously coming down as well in the critical zone. We do see that 4-hour MACD crossing down as well, extremely likely on the next tick, with any sort of a closure below 57,100. However, is that going to come alongside the break of range? No. So that's not actionable in and of itself. What I need to see is a break below this region right here, below 56,000 bucks. That would constitute a break of that range plus momentum. That would look pretty damn nasty nasty, especially for a drive back down somewhere just below 50,000 bucks. Again, I would be looking at that as an opportunity. And on top of that, we do see that the DMI plus signal has been completely faded on that last move. And now we go back into essentially looking for the next one to get above the threshold. And the next one that gets above the threshold, whether it be the DMI plus or the DMI minus, I would be looking at that to produce a bit of a multi-$1,000 moves. Of course, to the upside, I'd still be looking at about 61, maybe even 62,000 bucks. To the downside, I'd be looking for 48 to 49,000 bucks. Very likely a bounce there. Then we'll judge, is this likely to have continuation of 45 or not, or is this the actual low and Bitcoin's just going to be trading sideways for a bit here. Now, what I also want to talk about is why I am not very aggressive on Bitcoin right now as well, even though long-term I am very much bullish. So let's go over to the daily here. And I want to bring up this indicator right here. Now, we spoke about this yesterday. I won't go as in detail with this as I did yesterday because, well, we just fucking did it and it's probably boring. But this is the hash ribbons indicator, which is essentially a fundamentally based indicator. And what we have seen in the past is that it gives off essentially two signals with three phases. So you get the capitulation signal right here. You get the sort of consolidation phase between the capitulation and the buy signal. And then the buy signal signals the next sort of typical continuation drive. But as we identified yesterday, all these capitulation to buy signals were then lagging behind the next move by usually on average about a week to two, and on most cases about 2 weeks. So you can look at this one right here. You get the buy signal right here. You don't get your trending move until, well, 1-2 weeks later. There you go. Breakout, boom, nice move. Same thing over here. You get your buy signal on the 6th of July. Then when do you get your trending move? 1-2, I'd say you break out right here, boom, new highs above this sort of range. So that's about another 2 weeks, right? And then nice 30% move, not bad. Same thing over here. You get this signal right here on the 20th of April. And what happens? We break above the 20 simple and even get a golden cross on this as well. And well, what do you fucking know? It takes I'd say actually this one only took 1 week. Yeah, 1 week on this one. So this one was relatively fast compared to the other ones. On top of that, we got this iteration over here. We get the buy signal right here, then 1, boom, 2, up and over we go, another 30% move. And we can go back to this one over here. This one obviously an outlier on the other side, however, in the sense that we get a buy signal in January, first week of January, and then you get your big bad breakout in April, so a couple months there. And the times before that were way the fuck back on over here, but same sort of thing, giving you the buy signal right here, and then this one actually takes about a month and a half, it looks like, before the next move to the upside. Anyways, my point is that we already have the capitulation signal as it is right now. Very, very interesting, right? And again, the capitulation signal within the context of a macro bullish market, I basically just look for, well, a bit of sideways and down in this case. And, admittedly, it could be, could be rather nasty, but ultimately the capitulation signals have not been proven to be very, very good in the general bullish markets, even in the bearish markets too. I mean, this would have been a fucking career-ending move to, it tells you to literally sell the week after coronavirus dump. Not a big fan of that one. Not a big fan of that one. Now, of course, my point is that between the capitulation to buy signal, you can also see that it typically takes about 2 weeks. We can just measure them out right here. We don't need price action. 18th of May all the way to 6th of July. We have this one over here, 26th of October all the way to 30th of November. We have this one over here, 16th of March all the way to 20th of April. We have this one over here, 18th of November to 23rd of December. These are all about a month, by the way. 29th of October all the way to 7th of January, more than a couple months. This one over here, another about month one long, 25th of July all the way to 29th of August. I won't go through all of them now, but we can now go back on over here and we can just say that, typically speaking, about a month, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but on average about a month. And we got this signal when? We got this signal 26th of April. We're literally in the first fucking week of this one now, aren't we? Let's go down to a daily and kind of pinpoint this one. Where did we get it? Exactly 23rd of April. So 23rd of April, if I look at my calendar right here, is, quite literally just a little bit more than a week ago, about a week and a half ago. So historically speaking, this takes about a month or so before we actually even get the buy signal, and then a couple weeks after that on average as well for the actual move. So do I think that Bitcoin still remains within a sideways range here for a while? Yeah, I do. I don't think that Bitcoin is breaking out to new all-time highs And I don't think that Bitcoin is like breaking down to fucking, you know, new all-time lows either. I think that Bitcoin's gonna be more or less boring sideways. You're gonna see a lot of altcoins kind of take their reins and do their own thing. And perhaps a new narrative even comes within this market. Now, again, at the end of the day, I do think that Bitcoin will get once again rotated to the upside. I think Bitcoin could maybe even hit 6 digits, perhaps even this year. I think it's somewhat reasonable to at least entertain those ideas. But in this case right here, you know, all I see is a sideways range right now, and sideways for Bitcoin at these levels is good. It's building up a base, so long term it is very good. But for, you know, for a lot of the newer people, especially in this market, who have been spoiled by these massive moves seemingly happen out of nowhere and constantly, this is going to be like fucking, you know, what's the terminology? Trying to squeeze water from rocks. You know, it's going to be awful, right? Anyways, looking at this right here. You know, again, I do think that it's very reasonable to think that Bitcoin could very easily put out some nice sideways. Anyways, as far as the daily goes, what should we be talking about right now? We do see daily is actually turning up on the SMI right now. That is also alongside a break of the 20 simple. I actually usually like that, but over a weekend into the bully trap area, I am very skeptical of this move, to say the least. On top of that, we do see daily MACD also crossing the upside above the 20 simple. Again, 20 simple does have a negative slope. And over the weekend, I'm always skeptical of these moves. Am I sometimes wrong about this? Yes. Am I usually, you know, is this usually the proper way to be taking things? Well, in my experience, yes, it is. It keeps you more safe than sorry over a long period of time. But yes, there has been times in the past where adopting this sort of behavior or this sort of belief has been the wrong thing. Obviously, that is why it is an edge. But I'd say without actually referencing any of my data or notes, it's probably about 80% within that favor versus 20% not in that favor. And then the DMI ADX is actually printing a DMI minus signal over the threshold right now. Now, this is not accompanied by an ADX strengthening signal as well. So I don't look at this as actionable in and of itself, but I imagine that if we do break below the 20 simple, it will fire off. And if it breaks below the 20 simple while the DMI minus is dominant, obviously, and the ADX is strengthening, yeah, I'd very, very likely be looking for Bitcoin to come back down and retest the daily lows. Again, not a death sentence over time. What about the weekly over here? We've seen the DMI plus be completely faded. We've seen, oh wow, we actually got our first MACD cross to the downside a couple weeks ago. But again, not coming alongside of a break of structure, so don't look at this as, you know, super concerning long-term or actionable in that way. Anyways, if we broke below the 20 simple, basically this last low here in late February, yeah, that'd be very fucking concerning, but we don't see that just yet. And let me just make sure that I out of my fucking face over there. There we go. And even the SMI turning down as well. Let's go over here to our regular charts and see what we got going on. And let's just go down to the lower term timeframes and see what momentum's looking like right now, as Bitcoin essentially flirts around with a bit of a with actually that $56,000 level right here. Not bad indeed. And let's actually chart this out a little bit better, just because I do want to have these areas. Oh, I guess let's maybe I already have it charted out on BitMexico. I do. Hey, there we go. All right, beautiful. Yeah, it's exactly where I want to see it too, and that's where we'll just leave it. Anyways, okay, all right. So where was I just getting to? Okay, a couple things of interest right here. We actually do have a looming golden cross. So there is one thing that would actually make me more immediately bullish. If Bitcoin can just trade sideways above 56,000 bucks, we will inevitably get that golden cross. This would actually be a really good area right here for that. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but you know, if that happened, that would make me more immediately bullish. 4-hour TSI turning down right now. Not, again, any sort of major threat. 4-hour RSI is sideways and actually very constructive over a long period of time. But is this giving us any sort of obvious signals right now? No, it is not. And it should be denoted that CME did close specifically right below not just our horizontal from our past prior range, but it's also synonymous with the 200 simple moving average right here too, which is a nice little, you know, area of fuckery, if you will. By the way, closing price 57,315. Bitcoin spot currently trading 56,900-ish region. Anyways, what else do I want to talk about here? Go to the 12-hour. 12 actually does look pretty damn good, to be fair. It kind of does make me want to be bullish up to like 60,000 first. To be fair, I mean, it actually looks pretty fucking good there. Let's go back to BitMexico right here. And what do we see? Yeah, same thing. So we do see 12-hour TSIs getting right around the sort of bias indicator, the zero read essentially. And if we are going to see it turn down, it typically will happen from this region. So I would expect a bit of drama around there. Now, at the same time, we do have obviously this trend line coming in from the last few highs. And so if it does get past there, I would be looking for it to make a free ride up to this region right here. which would obviously imply some more upside in the more short and medium and intermediate term. Anyways, 12-hour RSI very much neutral, but overall good. I don't have any major issues with that. It is long-term good. And daily, what do we see over here? Again, no major obvious signals as far as the daily goes. Daily TSI kind of setting up itself as well. We are still increasing on HVP, and we do not see anything particularly interesting on RSI right now. There is one thing as well that would make me immediately bullish on Bitcoin, not just looking for new all-time highs, but looking for significantly new all-time highs in this case. And that would be this. If the weekly does confirm hidden bullish divergence, which could actually happen as early as tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. How would that happen? Well, it'd have to happen in a very specific way. If we close above last week's high, which is 57,553 on BitMexico, and check your exchange, it will be different, then yes, we will confirm hidden bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3 drives off this low right around your all-time high. I always look at those signals as extremely indicative of further continuation in that same direction. And in this case, around your all-time high, that is going to be a blue sky breakout. And I would be looking at, a target somewhere, I think it was between it's either 70 and 80 or 80 and 90,000 bucks, but I don't want to talk about that right now because I don't want to make myself exuberant. And realistically, it could happen tonight, obviously, yes, but I still think that would take its time anyways. So it's not like any major threat right now. Looking at the 3-day, fair enough. I mean, just a bit of range going on right here. Looking at the 2-day, same shit. Yeah, so I'm not getting too much off this. Overall, though, if I am going to be looking at the lower term timeframes, it obviously is appropriate to be making a condition on the other side for a shorter term time frame. And in this case, it's the same level as that fib retracement, which was just above 58,000 bucks, and we'll just mark it off right there. Essentially, if Bitcoin does start to close 4-hour dildos above here, I would be looking for a run back up. Actually, not just 60,000 bucks, it'd be more like right around here in this high structure at about just below 61,000 bucks. Also in line with the CME gap actually from a couple weekends ago. So with all of that said, if I had to put my thoughts on Bitcoin, I'm looking for more or less sideways and down here, still playing at the long-term time frame range, but based off of the monthly closure, which I actually didn't even talk about over here. We'll briefly touch on this. I do still look at this as more or less very likely to, base off in this region. The only thing that would make me macro bearish is if we take out last month's low. Last month's low is 47,000 bucks on Bitstamp, and of course, if we do go to the bi-monthly as well, we can see very obviously that the topside Toronto band is coming in where just around 50,000 bucks. So that's why I do think 50,000 bucks or just maybe slightly below 50,000 bucks would be an obvious opportunity for Bitcoin here if Bitcoin comes back down. And on first pass, I would not be looking for this to actually break down. I don't look at this as like a top right here. This is not what a top typically looks like for what it's worth. What I do see, however, is I see more signs of general continuation here. Again, as long as we're trending above the top side Toronto band on the monthly and bi-monthly, I look at that as trend in motion. The monthly does have a few concerning things as we just identified, but it's still very far away from even being tested to begin with. I mean, literally about 10,000 bucks from current price action. So with all of that said, we'll just keep the focus on Ethereum, keep all the Boolah hopes alive for right now. And actually, let's take a quick look at caretakers.tc over here, see what we got going on. Got all kinds of fun indicators on this one. Ooh, he's saying, well, actually, that's just the hour. Let's go to the 4-hour. 4-hour saying what critical bull zone consolidation right now, giving us massive wide ranges because volatility is a little bit on the higher side here, but momentum is turning down as you can see. And let's measure that versus the daily and 12-hour. 12-hour will come down below 55.6. Ooh, that could be really nasty if that condition actually is met. 4 hours going to come down as long as it's below about 58,000 bucks. So yes, it's looking like a little bit of sideways, at least for at best, at least for today's Sunday. Anyways, with that said, I think it's time for me to sign off. I am hungry as hell, and I would like to wish you the best once again. Take care and see you hopefully soon.